Ahoy there, shipmates. Show a leg. Come aboard the ghost ship Away with Words. It's all about language. Everyday words and sayings. What they mean, where they come from, and why. Am I talking like this? It must be the sea air. Soon we shall trawl for witches and warlocks and things that go bump in the night. But first, a little smuggling and a brush with the law.
Hey now, say now, let's get away now. Away with words. Words like we say each and every day. Away with words. What's in a name? What do you say? So many words at the end of the day. I talk, you talk, they talk, we all talk. Away with words. Away with words. Away.
In 1784, nearly 13 million tons of tea were brought into England, and only 5 million were taxed. Smuggling, to avoid paying tax, was comparatively easy in the absence of any real policing.
Smuggling involved whole communities in these rural areas of Suffolk, and indeed all over the world it's given us lots of new words. Words like moonlighting, which means to work by the light of the moon. Bootlegging, which comes from America, where the traders used to sell liquor to the Native Americans with thin bottles of whiskey down their boots. And booty itself comes from the French boutiner, meaning to prey upon.
Before proper policing, bands of smugglers even operated in broad daylight. There was great demand for the luxuries of the day, as former customs officer Ron Bailey explains.
Ron, you know a thing or two about smuggling, being a customs and excise officer. What sort of things did they smuggle?
Wines, spirits, tobacco. I think tea was a commodity. There was a high duty on tea. Anything where there was a duty on it. Yeah.
And how did they get the contraband ashore?
Well, they just wait for a quiet moment and hope to get away with it. They didn't always get away with it, of course.
So if I were to try a bit of smuggling, say a tea bag, I'd still be advised to find a nice quiet spot on the shore.
And they're still doing it, yeah.
I might try that.
These days, bringing in contraband is a lot more difficult. The term contraband comes from the Italian contrabbando. Contra meaning against, and bando meaning proclamation or word of law.
Well, so far, so good. I've managed to smuggle ashore some tea. Now, all I have to do is avoid the long arm of the law. Oh, well, it's a fair cop. Well, as I said, Kevin, it's a fair cop, but where does the word copper come from?
Actually originated from when the United States actually adopted British policing. The Americans liked the idea of British policemen, want to export all the ideas there. At the time, the helmet plates of the British PCs were made of copper. Copper, that's where it came from. That simple.
I see, so they wanted a police force that was more organised.
Like the model on the British style.
Keith, why don't you put on the sirens and all the lights and everything and make it a real drama? It was only a small amount of tea, you know.
We'll talk about it inside.
Do I get a phone call? I mean, how will anyone know my number here? So, here I am, in trouble with the law. The word law comes from the Old Norse, lag, meaning literally something laid down or fixed.
Of course, the word is also related to lay and lie. And as we all say, you know, we lay down the law, and an experienced prisoner is an old lag.
A good lawyer and counsel, money, patience, cause, a good judge, jury and witnesses, and good luck. The so-called 9 points of the law.
No, Suffolk County Sergeant, please.
I'll need all 9 points of the law to get me out of this place.
English leader belt there, please.
Belt?
Please.
The other way as well.
Okay, thank you. You understand your rights, don't you?
Yes, yes.
You can do all that. Yeah, if you could take them down, please.
There's just down there should be a little caption saying reconstruction.
Nicknames for prison, such as Jug or Clink, came from different prisons. The Jug was Newgate and the Clink was in Suffolk. Doing porridge showed the contempt prisoners had for the quality of prison food. I don't think Norwich police station gave its name to anything.
This one? Can I take shoes off you, please?
Shoes. Is that because of the laces?
Yes.
Yep, thank you.
The slammer gets its name from the weight of the cell doors.
Well, here I am on this trumped-up charge. Trumped up, that comes from the French verb tromper, to deceive. Well, here I am, all on my own. I could be here for some time. I've had some good news. I'm not in solitary anymore. This is Henry Cable, a burglar, and one of the first convicts to be transported to Australia in 1787. Sending felons to the colonies has been popular ever since we've had them. After all, they provided cheap labour and they kept the homes of Middle England safe for decent folk. But once Australia became an option, transportation boomed. And the courts, where troublemakers were sentenced, often on very little evidence indeed, soon became known as kangaroo courts. These are the dungeons at Norwich Castle Museum. As good a place as any to look at some of the words to do with crime and punishment. The word screw, meaning prison warder, comes from thumbscrew, a popular tool with torturers who like to put the screws on. Rather like accountants. Bird, meaning doing time, is Cockney rhyming slang. Birdlime, time. Nick comes from a tally or nick stick, a rod marked with notches for measuring things precisely. When something was counted out exactly, it was said to be nicked down, and this soon became slang for being arrested and in the nick. To most people, the word borstal means youth custody centre, but it gets its name from the very first place set up in 1902 for such purposes, at a place called Borstal near Rochester in Kent. And in Anglo-Saxon, the word borstal happens to mean security place. I'm sitting in a cucking stool. That's right, a cucking stool. It gets its name from the French verb coquiner, to nag or scold. So anybody, a man or a woman, who had an opinion and went on and on and on and on about it, would find themselves strapped into one of these and dunked into some horrible cold water. And this is why it became known later as a ducking stool. Popular myth also has it that this was a punishment used for witches, but not so. It was just somebody who went on and on and on and on
rather like me. So if you want to know something about witches, join me in part 2. And hopefully I shan't go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Welcome back. The word pagan comes from the Latin paganis, simply meaning earth dweller. Nowadays, the word pagan to most people means non-believer, but it's not as simple as that. The word pagan is like the word heathen. Heathens lived on open land, the heath. But why should this mean they had no beliefs? I'm meeting somebody here in Norwich's plantation gardens to find out more. Early pagans used to gather together to celebrate the changing cycle of the seasons. And many Christian festivals now come from the same pagan calendar. The spring equinox is now Easter, the autumn equinox, harvest festival, and the winter solstice, the longest night, is now Christmas.
In the sacred space of the circle I have cast around me, I invoke the goddess, mother of all living nature, source of life.
Naomi is a witch from Inanna's festival in Norwich.
I invoke Kananos, the horned god, the consort of the goddess. In the presence of all the elements I sit, incense for air, chalice of water, cup of salt, together the ocean, from which all life stems. So mote it be.
So Naomi, you're a modern-day pagan. What exactly does that mean?
It means that with many thousands of others all over Britain, Europe and the rest of the world, I follow the seasonal cycles and celebrate what we call the Wheel of the Year.
But does that make you a witch?
All witches are pagans, but not all pagans are witches. The word wick, to shape or to bend, to create reality, is a very ancient European word syllable, and this is where the word wick and witcher come from, and mostly we call ourselves Wiccans these days.
And what about this fellow over here?
Well, this is a little statue of Pan. Pan, who is half human, half animal, and he plays panpipes. We use the word panic today, perhaps without realising that it originates from the wild revelry and dances and excitement that Pan brought into people's lives in festivals and celebrations.
What about Halloween? Because most people would associate it with spooks and ghosts and creepy crawlies and things that go bump in the night.
Halloween, the name itself, means hallowed evening, sacred night, holy night, and its other name is Samhain or Savine, and that comes from a mixing of the word summer's end in the old words of this country. It's the old Celtic New Year's Eve, and so it is a time where loved friends and relatives who've died, who passed to the other world, are welcome to join us in celebration. The word ghost comes from the word guest.
They say this bedroom at the Bull Hotel in Woodbridge is haunted, and that I won't get any sleep. Well, anything for a dare.
What a lot of hocus pocus. Mind you, these pillows are a bit lumpy. I'm not superstitious, but sometimes I forget to cancel out the bad luck I create for myself, especially in my dreams. For example, I yawn without covering my mouth, so the devil may jump in. I get out of bed the wrong side. And when I've got a new pair of shoes, I may put them on a table. If I'm really forgetful, I might put an umbrella up inside the house. Sometimes, when I spill salt, I forget to throw some over my shoulder for good luck. At other times, I sneeze without covering my face. How unpleasant. I know I shouldn't walk on the cracks in the pavement, but I do. And I know that sensible people don't walk under ladders. Don't walk under ladders. Don't walk under ladders! Whew. What a terrible dream. Oh! Many people are superstitious, and none more so than sailors. But it's not just all bad luck this and good luck that. Lots of other everyday phrases come from ships and the sea.
I've just found out that I can go sailing on this beautiful Lowestoft trawler, the Excelsior. Thank you very much. Spot the new boy.
The Excelsior was built in 1921, and she's a perfect example of a traditional trawler.
Smack and dandy are also names for trawler. Smack comes from the Danish smacken, meaning to fling or dash, and it refers to the sound of the water hitting the hull and the wind flapping the sails. Dandy just means that the ship is stylish and neat. In other words, a bit flash, not just any old tub.
I don't mind lending a hand to justify my existence.
This is the skipper, Stuart White, and he's going to show me some of the ropes.
Right, this is a tiller rope which helps you to use the tiller.
Yeah.
And to use it, you just roll the coil round and then it holds the tiller where you want. And if you want to ease it out, you just roll the coil back and then the rope takes the weight and then you're not using the strength of your arm.
That's fantastic. It's like a very simple gear.
When a ship came into harbour, if it had any old rope it didn't want, it used to take it to the marketplace and sell it. And because the sailors didn't have to work for it, and the ship owners normally shared out the money they got for the old rope, it was easy money, and hence money for old rope. Chock-a-block means the position of two pulley blocks that have been hoisted up as far as they can go. So it means you can't do any more with it.
Graham the bosun knows a thing or two about all this rigging and tackle.
Graham, you were saying earlier there's lots of animals and things to be found in the rigging. And
yeah, there is, yeah. For instance, you've got the rat lines, which is how you get up the shrouds. And then, to tie off these hooks, we have mousings. Just here on the main boom, we have the gooseneck. And then down on the deck here for the foresail, that's what we call the horse. Then, of course, you have the monkey's fist, which is on the heaving line. And if you're really pushed, you've got a compass bearing.
Compass bearing. Just go and get a compass. Oh well, down the hatch.
The idea that it was unlucky to have a woman on board ship didn't apply when the ship was in harbour. Women often came aboard and spent the night.
But in the morning, when there were things to be done, the boatswain would come through and say, "Show a leg." And if a hairy leg popped out, it meant the rating had to get up and go to work. But if a woman's leg popped out, she could stay in bed. And that's how we get the expression, show a leg.
Nice leg. I wonder who that belongs to.
Luxury down there, luxury.
These are the scuppers. Their job is to let the water run off deck in heavy seas. When a wave breaks over, it can run out here and back into the sea. If you're a sailor and knocked over by a heavy wave, more than likely you'd be rolled down here and you'd be scuppered. Quiz time. What's this movie? Buster Keaton, the navigator. I'm not going out there for anyone.
I saw what happened earlier. You have to be careful on boats. And you're not getting me up there either.
Chunder is also a nautical expression. It literally means to be sick. But where it comes from, if you were sort of somewhere up there and there were chaps below you and you felt sick, you'd shout, "Watch under." But of course, even that takes a long time to say. So it was shortened to "Chunder," you know. Actually, it doesn't affect me. I've got my sea legs. See? Legs. I wonder what's cooking. I think I'll go below deck to the galley. Apparently I did such great work up on deck, they've made me tea boy, a promotion. So here we are, Skipper. 2 cups of tea.
Oh, thank you, Neil.
By the way, we get the expression square meal from the days when the sailors used to eat their meals off a square wooden plate that was nailed to the table. Nailed because obviously in rough weather it would slide around. But posh is an everyday word, and I gather that comes from the seafaring folk.
Yeah, that came from the early days of steamships, when they first opened the Suez Canal and ships going to India. Those that could afford it would buy cabins on the port side going out and the starboard side coming home, because they would be away from the sun and therefore get a cooler cabin.
I gather you're a sea shanty man.
Yeah, I thought we'd have a little fishing song from these parts.
We're on a
as
trawler.
We're on a trawler, yeah. And it goes something like this. As we was a-fishing off Haysborough light, oh, shooting and trawling and hauling all night, 'cause it's windy old weather, stormy old weather, oh, when the wind blows we'll all pull together. Then up jumps a heron, the queen of the sea, oh, come on, old skipper, you cannot catch me, 'cause it's windy old weather, stormy old weather, oh, when the wind blows we'll all pull together.